Here's a question for you. What if the reason you feel tired, foggy, and slow to recover has almost nothing to do with your age and years, and almost everything to do with what is happening inside your blood vessels right now? Most of us think about aging in terms of what we see in the mirror, but according to Dr. William Lee, a credentialed researcher in angiogenesis and vascular health, some of the most consequential changes of aging are invisible to us, happening silently inside the 60,000 miles of blood vessels running through your body. Today we are breaking down the nitric oxide boosting protocol, what it is, how it works biologically, what the evidence actually says, and how you can start implementing it using food as medicine. Let's get into it. The nitric oxide boosting protocol is not a pill or a supplement stack. At its core, it is a dietary strategy designed to restore and protect what researchers call vascular resiliency, the ability of your blood vessels to adapt, widen, and regulate blood flow moment to moment. The key molecule at the center of this is nitric oxide, or NO, a biological signaling gas produced naturally by the cells lining your blood vessels. This protocol has attracted serious attention in longevity circles because vascular decline is one of the earliest and most universal features of biological aging. When nitric oxide production drops, blood vessels become stiffer, less responsive, and more prone to inflammation. That cascade affects energy, cognition, cardiovascular health, muscle performance, and recovery. The protocol is compelling because it targets a root mechanism rather than just a symptom, and the interventions are largely food-based, which makes them accessible. It is also nuanced enough to be interesting. Not every food works the same way, and the oral microbiome plays a role most people have never heard of. We will cover all of that. Let's start with the biology, because this is where it gets genuinely fascinating. Your blood vessels are not just passive tubes. They are lined with a thin, active layer of cells called the endothelium. Think of it as a smart inner coating, almost like a living saran wrap wrapping the inside of every vessel. These endothelial cells constantly sense what is happening in your bloodstream and respond by releasing biological signals. The most important one for vascular resiliency is nitric oxide. When nitric oxide is released, it tells the smooth muscle surrounding the blood vessel to relax. The vessel widens. Blood pressure drops. Blood flow increases to wherever it is needed. Your muscles during exercise, your gut after a meal, your brain when you are trying to focus. Dr. Lee points out that the brain alone has roughly 400 miles of blood vessels, and focused blood delivery to active brain regions depends on this system working properly. Now, here's what happens with age. The endothelium becomes less efficient at producing nitric oxide. Output declines. The vessels become less responsive. They cannot dilate as readily or as fully. And because the endothelial lining is now more vulnerable, it accumulates damage. Inflammatory processes begin inside the vessel walls. That inflammation further degrades the lining, further reduces nitric oxide production, and the cycle compounds. Over years, Dr. Lee explains, this is partly why aging feels the way it does. Fatigue, because muscles are getting less blood flow. Reduced mental sharpness, because brain circulation is compromised. Slower recovery, because tissue repair requires adequate circulation. So how do foods change this equation? Two main pathways according to Dr. Lee. First, certain plant-based polyphenols, particularly anthocyanins and flavonols, can directly activate an enzyme in endothelial cells called endothelial nitric oxide synthase, or ENOS. Think of ENOS as the manufacturing enzyme for nitric oxide. When polyphenols activate it, the endothelium produces more nitric oxide, vessels relax, and resiliency is restored. This is the mechanism behind blueberries and dark chocolate in this protocol. Second, certain foods contain dietary nitrates, compounds your body can convert directly into nitric oxide. Here's the twist. This conversion does not happen in your stomach. It happens first in your mouth. Bacteria on your tongue reduce dietary nitrates into nitrites, and those nitrites are then absorbed and converted into nitric oxide in the bloodstream. This means your oral microbiome is actually part of your cardiovascular health system. That is not a metaphor. It is a direct biochemical pathway, and it is why Dr. Lee specifically flags that certain prescription antiseptic mouthwashes can disrupt nitric oxide production from nitrate-rich foods like beets. We will cover all of that. Let's be honest about where the science stands, because intellectual honesty is more useful to you than hype. Nitric oxide's role in vascular health is genuinely well established. This is not fringe science. The endothelium, ENOS, and NO-mediated vasodilation are foundational concepts in cardiovascular biology, and the decline of this system with age is well documented in the research literature. On blueberries specifically, Dr. Lee references human studies showing that consuming blueberries improved a measure called flow-mediated dilation, or FMD. FMD is a clinically validated assessment of endothelial function. It measures how well a blood vessel dilates in response to increased blood flow, and it is considered a reliable proxy for vascular health. According to Dr. Lee, studies showed that 1 cup of blueberries per day, fresh or frozen, produced this beneficial effect. That is a meaningful and realistic dose. It is worth noting that while FMD improvements are a validated biomarker, they are a surrogate endpoint. They reflect better vessel function. But long-term outcomes like reduced cardiovascular events require larger, longer trials to confirm. On dark chocolate, Dr. Lee cites clinical studies showing that cacao flavanols can stimulate nitric oxide production and vascular dilation, and can help lower blood pressure. He also notes that proanthocyanidins in cacao appear to mobilize circulating stem cells that participate in repairing the endothelial lining, an intriguing finding, though this specific mechanism warrants further study in larger human trials. The effective dose referenced in the research Dr. Lee describes is approximately 200 to 600 milligrams of cacao flavanols daily, which he translates to roughly 2 or 3 squares of dark chocolate at 70% cacao or higher. On beets, clinical studies cited by Dr. Lee have shown that beetroot can lower blood pressure, improve brain health markers, support muscle function, and measurably improve exercise performance, likely because nitric oxide-driven vasodilation delivers more oxygen to working muscles. 1 cup of roasted beets or 1 cup of beet juice was associated in studies with up to 500 milligrams of dietary nitrate, which researchers linked to the blood pressure effects. On barley, Dr. Lee highlights beta-D-glucan, a soluble fiber shown in research to lower inflammation and reduce blood cholesterol, both relevant to cardiovascular and vascular health, though the nitric oxide connection here is more indirect. Overall, the evidence base is solid for the general principle, and reasonably strong for the specific foods at the doses described. The honest limitation is that most studies are relatively short-term and measure biomarkers rather than hard endpoints. More long-term human trials are needed. Here is how to actually run this protocol based on what Dr. Lee described. Start with blueberries. Aim for 1 cup daily. Fresh or frozen both work. Frozen blueberries retain their anthocyanins, so cost and availability are not barriers. Work them into your morning in a smoothie, over yogurt, or on their own. This is the most straightforward entry point for the protocol. Add dark chocolate strategically. Look for 70% cacao or higher on the label. 2 to 3 small squares daily is what the research referenced by Dr. Lee used. If the bitterness is a barrier, Dr. Lee's own suggestion is to pair it with black coffee, which he notes also supports vascular health. That combination naturally produces something close to a mocha, and it makes consistency easier. Introduce beets 2 to 3 times per week. Roasted beets or beet juice are both valid options based on the studies cited. 1 cup is the dose linked to meaningful dietary nitrate intake. Critically, protect your oral microbiome. Avoid rinsing with prescription-strength chlorhexidine mouthwash on the same day you consume nitrate-rich foods. Dr. Lee specifically flags this as a pathway disruptor. He notes that regular over-the-counter mouthwash is less of a concern, but the strong prescription antiseptic formulations prescribed after dental procedures can kill the tongue bacteria responsible for converting nitrates to nitrite. Your mouth will recover, but be aware of the timing. Add barley as a grain staple. Barley soup, barley in stews, or as a rice substitute are all practical options. The beta-D-glucan content supports inflammation reduction and cholesterol management, complementary mechanisms to the nitric oxide pathway. For tracking, consider monitoring resting blood pressure over 4 to 6 weeks as an accessible home metric. Flow-mediated dilation testing exists in clinical settings if you want a direct endothelial function measure. Subjective markers worth logging include energy levels, workout recovery time, and mental clarity, all of which Dr. Lee connects to circulation quality. If you have existing cardiovascular conditions or are taking blood pressure medications, talk to your doctor before making significant dietary changes. These foods can have real physiological effects. And if you are already medicated for blood pressure, your doctor needs to know you are adding nitrate-rich foods that may compound that effect. This information is for educational purposes only. Always consult your doctor before making any changes to your diet, supplements, or medication. The foods in this protocol are generally safe for most people, but there are important exceptions. If you are on blood pressure medications, the addition of nitrate-rich foods like beets or high flavanol cacao could produce additive blood pressure lowering effects. Beet juice and beets are high in oxalates, which can be problematic for people prone to kidney stones, specifically calcium oxalate stones. If you have a history of kidney stones, check with your doctor before making beets a daily staple. Dark chocolate contains caffeine and theobromine, which are stimulants. People with arrhythmias, anxiety disorders, or caffeine sensitivity should be cautious, especially with larger amounts. For anyone with diabetes or blood sugar management concerns, the sugar content of chocolate products and fruit matters, even when the overall direction of the food is beneficial. Choose dark chocolate with minimal added sugar. Finally, as mentioned in the mechanism section, if you are prescribed chlorhexidine mouthwash after a dental procedure, be aware of its temporary effect on the nitrate to nitric oxide conversion pathway. This is a short-term disruption, not a permanent one. Vascular resiliency is one of those levers in longevity biology that touches almost everything: energy, cognition, cardiovascular health, physical performance. And the fact that you can influence it with foods you probably already have access to makes this one of the most practical protocols we have covered on this channel. If you found this useful, hit subscribe so you do not miss our next deep dive, and drop a comment below. I want to know, what protocol are you currently running? Are you already using any of these foods intentionally? Let's compare notes. Coming up next, we are looking at another vascular health angle, one that most biohackers overlook entirely. You are not going to want to miss it.